not knowing how to budget appropriately or really understand what it's going to take to run a business effectively. So one piece that we decided to start with, due to already having resources in place, was providing the strengthening business practices training for providers in different projects through the ARPA funding. The Strengthening Business Practices Training Series was developed by the National Early Childhood Quality Assurance Center. This program was developed to address basic concepts of physical and operational management for center-based and family child care. These trainings were grounded in the belief that a strong and sustainable business can support program initiatives aimed at improving outcomes for our children. So if they have a strong business and they have that strong foundation, then we're going to see that they are able to hold on to those goals and initiatives that are really what the program wants to hold for those kiddos, and provide high quality care. So the training does have four key modules that has to do with budgeting, projections, planning, financial reports, internal controls, marketing, and recruiting and retaining staff, which are some great key areas that are needed for all of our providers across the state. Some of those primary benefits, of course, being able to provide business supports include increased productivity. Anybody that knows a director in childcare knows that they wear many, many hats. Being able to increase productivity just towards the children and not having to focus so much time on business pieces, these business supports are key for our providers. Also, increased retention of staff. If they have an onboarding process, if they have a training process in place, and can be able to provide those supports to actually have new staff in a classroom and understand how to take care of children, then they're going to be able to retain those staff. Increased profitability, which of course we all know is needed in our early education services. Increased customer service. Our children and our families are their customers. That is who they are making their business from. And if they are able to focus more on the children and the families, then we're going to see a holistic approach and care for our kiddos with these services. They're going to have a reduction in loss in revenue. They're going to be able to fill those visions and goals, increase professionalism. They're going to have improved business skills, better child outcomes, and then, of course, reduction in cost and fees. Now, these are only just a few benefits, but some that are key to having these business supports for our kiddos, or for our centers. So currently, we are providing a few business supports. With the Kellogg Grant, we were actually the first state to actually be trained on the Strengthening Business Practices Training Series. We had a 2-day training held in Berea that encompassed all of our pilot project liaisons, all of their staff, and then some of our child care aware coaches. With the ARPA funding, we've been able to hold a training academy for credentialed trainers on director and administrative trainings needed for providers. This has been a year-long academy that focused specifically on child care business topics. We included the first 4 months on the Strengthening Business Practices Training Series, and then we've included topics like labor laws, record keeping, staff management, parental engagement, working with community partners, professionalism, management skills, and working with children with special needs in their programs. There is one training per month, and after the trainings are provided to the trainers, then they are given the topic, the information, they are giving the training materials, and then they're able to take these trainings out to the providers in their communities. We have made it a requirement for all of the startup grants with the ARPA funds and the Infant Toddler Contracted Slots pilot project to complete the Strengthening Business Practices training. Also, within the ARPA funds, we provided $2 million to the Governor's Office for Early Childhood to do the mentor or the Administrator Director Apprentice program. They too provide the Strengthening Business Practices training. They also provide payroll, reporting, and records, which is currently in development, but hiring practices, ethics, and the What I Need career readiness training set. That includes digital literacy, essential soft skills, supplemental skills, and then college readiness skills. So we are still in the process of the Director and Administrator Training Academy, but the Strengthening Business Practices training has been in full force for about 4 to 5 months. And during that time, we have over 23 trainers that are actively training on the Strengthening Businesses Practices series, as well as a trainer in every region of Kentucky. And the regions that you see on the screen are actually childcare regions, if anybody is wondering what those are. We've had over 326 participants so far and over 911 hours completed in those trainings. There are some other some trainings being provided by other credentialed trainers in the state that are close to the topics of strengthening business practices. And as of right now, there are 8 credentialed trainers with 285 participants. Now, this does not include the college courses that are being provided. Those participants are taking specific college courses that have to pertain to their degree. Of course, with every great opportunity, there are definitely some challenges. Some of those challenges, of course, are the number of providers actually looking for some of these services. Some are not necessarily familiar that this is something that would be beneficial to their business. We also have capacity issues that of those that are able to train on these topics and have firsthand knowledge and experience, or actually being credentialed trainers to assist providers on these topics. More in-depth training at different levels. The Strengthening Business Practices training is a very basic training. It gives them the first level of knowledge. So, of course, having more in-depth training would be a great piece to expand on within this opportunity. Increased awareness of training opportunities is both a challenge and an opportunity. I think we could definitely spend some more time working with providers within coaching to really understand some of the processes and some of the trainings available to providers. So we definitely have some opportunities where we could work with the Small Business Administration to provide supports for our providers and really help them see the need for business training within their business and their centers. With that, is there any questions?
Do any committee members have questions? So I will start us off real quick. So you had mentioned the Kellogg grant. Will you explain a little bit more about that?
Yes. In 2018, I think it was, the Pritchard Committee was granted a grant from Kellogg on family child care services in the state. And with the division, they had an open opportunity for a program manager on their end with the grant to support the work being done. And most of the work was really researching the field of family child care in Kentucky, and then as well as being able to provide special supports for our family child care providers.
Awesome. I greatly appreciate it. I think this is an awesome model. Anytime that you can get a little extra support, whether it's in life or business, whatever, I'm so glad that you are there as a resource. I would like for you to stay at the table just in case any other questions come up. But I do also want to give Ariel the opportunity. No, sorry, Kathy. Ariel's the next one. Kathy from the Texas Workforce Commission, Ms. Arwood and her colleague, Ms. Reddick, are joining remotely via Zoom. And so if you all can go ahead and get started, we would greatly appreciate that.
Stop sharing.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chairs Carol and Hebron and members of the committee. Thank you so much for having us today. I'm going to share my screen. Okay. So my name is Catherine Arwood, and I'm the Child Care Program Policy Manager with Texas Workforce Commission. I'll be co-presenting today with my colleague, Chelsea Reddick, and we're going to talk about our statewide business coaching initiative. TWC is the lead agency for the Federal Child Care and Development Fund we're actually one of the few states that have our CCDF lead agency embedded in the workforce agency, but it has actually been very fruitful. So I'd like to start today by talking a little bit about the background on how we started our child care business coaching program. So historically, as we just heard, many of the child care program administrators struggle with the business side of their work. So they tend to be, the people who are promoted to directors and they're actually leading the work tend to be childcare educators first and have been moved up into that position. So they often just don't have the knowledge of the business side of the work. So as we received many COVID relief dollars, Texas received close to $6 billion dollars in COVID relief funding, and we provided 2 rounds of funding directly to child care providers. We call that our Child Care Relief Fund. In 2021, we supported providers with $580 million, and at that time, we realized that we're infusing all of this money into the childcare industry, but we need to be able to provide some supports on how to spend it and how to spend it appropriately. And so that is when we initially invested $15 million for free business coaching across the state. And then in 2022, we're currently still in the process of distributing funding, but we're distributing $2.9 billion in funding. So it's been even more of a concern that we make sure that our childcare providers have all of the resources that they need to be successful with using the funding and making wise decisions. So a little bit about our model that we use. We're working with 3 different vendors to support our childcare business coaching. So we have one that is really focused on center-based providers, one that is really fostering those unique and special needs of home-based providers, and they often are the ones that lack that business acumen the most. And then we also have specialized one-on-one coaching. So they support with these deeper topics like HR, tax credits, that sort of thing. And then we also support with some robust business resources, including videos and guides that are, all in English, Spanish, and Vietnamese to support our childcare providers. And then for those who don't want to participate in coaching, we're also providing some interactive webinars and group coaching opportunities to support them. Throughout the process, we're really focused on meeting providers' needs where they are and helping to connect them to the existing systems of support throughout the state. Our coaching model is strengths-based, and so we understand that the providers are the expert in their area. So they're the expert in their child care center or home, and they're encouraged to make informed decisions throughout the process. So we're not telling them how to spend their funding, but helping them make decisions throughout. So now I'm going to let Ms. Reddick go through a little deeper dive on our business coaching.
Hi, everyone. My name is Chelsea Reddick. I am a policy analyst at the Texas Workforce Commission with Kathy. So I'm going to take us through a
Ms.
little bit more
Reddick,
about the process.
can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, if you can put your laptop or your phone on mute, so it doesn't, we're getting a really bad echo. Okay, maybe not your laptop because then we can't hear you. Do you have a second device?
Yes, one moment. Sorry about that. So I'm just going to talk us through a little bit about each of our coaching modules. We have 6 modules. The pathway is designed to be flexible to allow coaches to cover each topic in response to their specific needs. So after the provider signs up, they indicate the reason that they're looking to participate in coaching and are matched with a coach that aligns more directly with their needs. And they meet in that initial meeting to discuss their goals and learn more about what that coaching process may entail, what they would like it to look like for themselves. And then providers can also start at any point in the module that makes the most sense to them. So if a provider has already got some solid financial foundations and solid staff, then maybe they can start at risk reduction or something like that. So first I'll go through 1 through 6. So number 1, financial foundations. So this is mostly talking about budgeting, paying yourself. We see a lot of providers, particularly home-based providers, that are not paying themselves on a regular basis. So we want to help them create that system in their business and establish more cash flow to keep them more stable. And so module 2, staff retention and recruitment. So we offer some short-term, quick things that providers can do, like offering bonuses, temporary pay increases, and things like that. Walk them through the steps of how they can implement those. And we also offer long-term approaches, such as adding staff benefits and PTO and things like that they can implement. And then our 3rd module, risk reduction. This mostly entails things like reporting, record keeping, keeping an employee handbook or a parent handbook. These are so that they can get their policies in place that have a strong, they protect them when unusual situations come up. And for our 4th module, we have sales and marketing. So this module is mostly to go through the foundations of what marketing is, why it's important, and then our coaches will oftentimes help our providers develop a marketing plan that they can implement. And then module 5, sustainable revenue. So this goes back to kind of generating a stable cash flow for providers. So we provide them with information and resources to be able to access other programs that will infuse funds into their business, such as our child care services program, or the child and adult care food program, or Texas Rising Star, which is our QRIS program that provides higher reimbursement rates for higher quality providers. And module 6, we have growth. So this one is mainly to help providers develop a business plan. And if they're in an opportunity where they can expand their business, it will be helping them plan for the future and how they're going to sustain themselves and continue to grow and develop. And by the end of the pathway, our goal is that providers will know how to establish those strong financial foundations, while minimizing risk. They'll know how to set rates and how to assess the market that their business is located in, and how to grow their business. And at any time in this pathway, coaches can be referred to specialized coaches. So our core coaches will refer providers to our specialized coaches when they come up with topics that they want to discuss, such as tax credits or legal advice or HR, maybe strategy, things like that are more intensive. It might take someone to really get in the weeds with them about those topics. So like I said, the core coaches refer providers to specialized coaches. They typically engage in shorter engagements, 1 to 2 sessions per topic. Go to the next slide. So here on this slide, I have a little bit of the common topics that we're getting from specialized coaches. And let's see. So our specialized coaches were able to save our providers in Texas nearly $82 million with their tax credits and the money that they didn't have to spend to have somebody prepare their taxes. So we're really proud of them for helping out our providers in that way. And on the next slide, I have a few examples. I won't go through them all. I'll just highlight the first one. That is another situation of a provider that was going to pay somebody to prepare her taxes, but in the end, she was able to secure $170,000 and save herself $42,000 that she would have spent on a tax preparer because she used our specialized coaching program. And then I'll pass it back over to Kathy to share some data.
All right, so throughout the project, we have worked with Rice University's Texas Policy Lab to help evaluate the program. And so I want to just share a little bit of the data. We will have a report coming out hopefully later this month. But just to give you a bit of a preview, in the first 12 months of the program, we served close to 2,000 childcare providers with one-on-one business coaching. Those providers typically attend 3 to 8 sessions, but they often communicate with coaches much more than that as they're working through the activities that are required to meet their goals. Approximately half of the providers that we serve started with core coaching and then were referred for specialized topics just during that time throughout their sessions. Providers who participated in the business coaching were more likely to accept children receiving our child care scholarships or our subsidies. They were more likely to be home-based providers. Well, I should say that differently. Home-based providers were more likely to participate. So while we had more center-based providers actually in the program, looking at the percentages, home-based providers were more likely to participate. Also those high-quality providers that were recognized Texas Rising Star, which is our state's QRIS or Quality Rating and Improvement System, they were more likely to participate than others. And it's not surprising to see that providers' priority topics were budgeting, enrollment, hiring. Those are the things that we've all heard have been issues, especially during the pandemic when we think about enrollment and hiring staff. So that's where the majority of providers were focused. Overall, our providers that were surveyed, which was about 237 providers that were part of the survey, they were satisfied with their business coaching, believed it helped their business. Anecdotally, we've heard stories from providers who brought their enrollment up to desired levels or who started paying themselves. Many of those for the first time in years or the first time since they opened, they began paying themselves. I think one of the things that we've heard a lot is that childcare providers, especially those that are home-based providers, often don't see themselves as business owners. So they did not realize they should be paying themselves. They do it really out of the love that they have for serving children. And so as we conclude our presentation, I thought we would share some of our lessons learned. And so we've just got a few of those that have helped us really as we move into our second year of providing business coaching. So first, as we began reviewing the data, we realized that we weren't collecting all the data that we wanted. So for example, we added a question to the initial sign-up form to ask about the provider's coaching needs and their goals so that we can identify which subjects the providers came in saying that they needed help with and which the coaches actually helped them identify as a need. And I'm sure it doesn't come as a surprise to you all, but it took some time for providers to understand that everything is going to relate to a budget. So whether they are concerned about enrollment or hiring, marketing, all of that comes down to a budget, and we identified the need for them to have a budget. Home-based providers described the most benefit for the program, and they shared the most success stories. And then our lead business coaching partner provided regular training and quality assurance for all of the coaches, and just helped us maintain the fidelity of the model. And we really realized that that was very needed and very important. So with that, we are happy to take any questions that you have.
Thank you so much. We greatly appreciate it. You know, I think, Kathy, the one that really stuck out on your lessons learned to me was the home-based providers seem to benefit most. And that's something that we've consistently gathered during the interim, having this conversation. So thank you for sharing that. We'll get started with Representative Raymond.
Yes, thank you very much. I noticed one of the modules is sustainable revenue. And I imagine that a conversation that the coaches have very often with providers is, are they charging the right rate to families? And I don't think anyone's charging too much. So, you know, I want to see how often you find that folks are really charging too little to meet the needs of their business. And then when they need to adjust rates, how do you help them figure out what the market will bear? And sort of deliver that news to families that we need to raise your rate $10 a week or $20 a week, which is, you know, $500 or $1,000 a year. And I can imagine, you know, as a mom, the sort of seismic impact that would have when you're thinking about your family's finances over the next year. Can you speak to that?
Yes, I apologize for the audio issues. We're in the same room. We've actually had many of the providers who had not raised their rates in years. I'm thinking of one provider in particular that, you know, they've had the same rates for 10 years. As you know, everything else has gone up, and it wasn't sustainable. So they had to do some market research, and it is definitely an issue that comes up a lot, but they also talk to their parents that they serve, and you know, that's part of the process. We don't want them to raise rates where parents can't afford it. Another thing that the coaches also kind of explain to them is our reimbursement rates. So as I said before, many of the providers that are participating in coaching are also providing childcare subsidy care. So understanding that they might not be getting the most out of the reimbursement rates that we provide to them because they haven't raised their rates in years. And so as our rates have gone up, in Texas, we pay the published rate of the child care provider or our maximum reimbursement rate, whichever is less. And so a lot of providers did not understand that, you know, this was an opportunity for them, as we've raised our rates, you know, every year for the last several years. They didn't understand that maybe they should consider raising their rates at the same time. Again, understanding that it's not always affordable to the parents that they serve, so they have to walk that margin.
Yeah, thank you.
Senator Carroll.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And there are a few things I'd like to go through. Kathy, help me understand in Texas, is this an ongoing effort or is this specifically funded through ARPA? Will this go away in a couple years or will you all continue all of these services?
So the answer is right now it is specifically funded by CRRSA and ARPA funds. And we do not anticipate this continuing on the one-on-one business coaching. While decisions haven't been made there right now, we're not anticipating it to continue. I will say that in addition to our business coaching, we offer a business training, which is we do plan to continue for a while, and that is not funded through any stimulus funding. But in that, we offer business summits. We have a contractor that provides that training across various regions of the state. As you know, Texas is a big state. I think they do 5 or 6 a year. And they also partnered with Texas A&M University to develop some learning modules. So we've got some very rich learning modules that are specific business training for childcare providers in Texas. So it's very specific. And they also have what they call think tanks. So we do have that piece that will be continuing for sure. And like I said, I think one of the things we're waiting on is looking at our report, reviewing our data to make data-informed decisions about whether or not the business coaching continues through our regular CCDF funding.
Thank you very much. Let's talk about Kentucky now, and that therein lies the problem. Everything that we're doing right now is great, and getting a quarterly stipend from the state as someone that runs a child care center, that's awesome. And the training that we're getting is awesome. For new businesses, people want to open up businesses, having this accessible, everything that you all are doing is great, but it stops in a couple years. So we have got to find a way to keep that going somehow. I know that there has been some type of support available before ARPA funding, before all of this started. And Sarah, you may have to help me out on this. Did Child Care Aware, wasn't there already training available to support people who wanted to open up centers from that side of it? I'm sorry, Madam Chair.
Dr. Vanover, please make sure to introduce yourself when you speak.
I'm Dr. Sarah Vanover. I'm with Kentucky Youth Advocates. And Jessica and I worked together on a lot of these projects before I left the Cabinet for Health and Family Services, so she does have an excellent background. Child Care Aware of Kentucky does offer a training to anybody who applies for a license or certification, and it's called Getting Ready to Work in Child Care, something of that nature. It does give some people a very realistic perspective of what it looks like, because many people might think that it would be fabulous to open a child care program and then not understand the liability, the zoning permits, the business aspects of that. And so that's been in place for quite some time, and Child Care Aware will do that with anybody who applies, reaches out to ask about the application process. The Division of Regulated Child Care will refer them to Child Care Aware to get that training. Now, prior to the pandemic itself, Jessica had already started working on this training due to the funds from the Kellogg grant. She had begun partnering with Child Care Aware to get that business training out and those modules out across the state. We did increase that. When the Kellogg grant funding ran out, Kentucky established the permanent Family Child Care Network. And so they took on a lot of those responsibilities, and those regional hubs have been trained by Jessica and by our federal partners on how to do those modules for business training. So right now, they do that quite a bit with the family child care homes, because as Representative Hevron said, that seems to be where a great deal of the need is. A lot of our family child care providers are excellent with children. They have a heart for children, but they are new at being an entrepreneur. And so that has been something that they have really needed. Unfortunately, our centers, most of the time, many of our center directors are new at being an entrepreneur also, because what happens throughout the U.S. is the best teacher is promoted to be the director, and they know a lot about how to coach other teachers to be better teachers, but they do not have their own business training, and they can get very overwhelmed with trying to deal with budgets and marketing and liability insurance and things of that nature.
So let's talk about the capacity once the funding ends. Are we going to be able to maintain within the Commonwealth at a acceptable level to provide the support that's needed for the various providers in this area, because I think this is critical. And one thing that we have not done in this task force, and if we should continue this next interim, I think we really need to get down in the weeds with some of the owners. And I run a nonprofit, so it's a little bit different, and there's expenses that the private sector has that I don't. And so in Frankfort, we always have people that come in that ask for money and they need this and it's so bad, but we never ask to see their books. And I we don't have to do it formally, but I'd really like to hear and really like to see from some owners, where are your expenses? Where are the areas that maybe we can formulate some kind of plan to help you with? The ladies from Texas mentioned something about assistance with doing their tax returns. Never thought about that. But those are the types of things that I think that this task force, that we really need to look at from those individual providers. What is the business model? I know my model, but I don't know everybody else's. And, they're the ones I think that can help us through this. But back to my original question, what is our capacity once the money leaves?
So sorry. So the great thing about utilizing the Strengthening Business Practices training series is that it is free to provide or from the National Early Childhood Quality Assurance Center. Now, we have trained over 23 credentialed trainers on this topic, but the thing is they may charge a minimal fee to go out and provide the training. All of our Family Child Care Network agencies have been trained in this training, and they are providing services. But of course, there is a minimal fee for that as well as they take the training. Some of them have went ahead and put them online, so that way they can take the modules at their own pace. But again, there's a fee for that from those agencies. The training is there; it's being offered, but there has not been put forth any funds specifically to support that past this.
This is Sarah again. The Family Child Care Network is also staffed to provide business support as part of its contract with the state. So aside from these modules, they have to do other things to support, including help with taxes, help with tax credits, things of that nature. And so if those subcontracted agencies like the Child Care Council of Kentucky and Western Kentucky's Resource and Referral, EC Learn, if they don't have an expert on staff that knows how to support the child care providers with doing their taxes, then part of their contract is to bring somebody in and support them. And we do have resource and referral agencies throughout the state that have done that for years and supported them with business supports like that. But a lot of this has been supplemented with that. For example, Jessica's position as the administrator of the ARP funds will end in a year or two, and a lot of the efforts that she has worked on, that there's possibility for the Division of Child Care to continue those funds, but it isn't currently written into the budget, as many of those programs are supported by ARP funds at this point.
Okay. And Ben, I think this is one of the critical areas that we need to look at, that we need to make sure there is a proper level there. So I think that's likely going to be one of our recommendations in the core components of trying to set up a sustainable system. I think this is crucial for the providers. As you all provide these trainings, and I'm sure there's a lot of discussion getting down in the weeds with some of these centers, are you all gathering any data that can kind of help guide in the future to make decisions on identifying where the struggles are and where revenue is to be found for these owners?
So a lot of the Family Child Care Network staff that are completing these trainings with these providers, they have a consistent ongoing communication with these providers. So not only are they getting the training from that specific trainer, they're also they're working hand in hand with those trainers. The Family Child Care Network does have a system that they document everything in and gather information on, so that way we can then look back and see where some of those specific issues are coming from.
And Child Care Aware has a similar process where anytime they're asked about technical assistance, whether it's quality or health and safety, they document what the questions are as well, and they keep those in reserves and provide a quarterly report for the Division of Child Care. So even if it's not a family child care home, if they reach out and say, I don't know how to do this. Do you know of a specialist who can help me? Do you know what direction? There's data from centers, and there's also data from the family child care homes on what they need additional support on.
Okay. Really like to hear more about this in the future if we get the opportunity. But are you all aware of what the commonalities are, that the struggles that most centers have just in general?
Budgeting is huge. Even as we do business plans with the ARPA funds, and they have to do a budget, that is something that has been very difficult for folks within writing for these grants, but then as our centers are even trying to figure out what they need to budget for, or what are they paying, or what are they paying out, especially on payroll and taxes and different items that they have to purchase for the center. They have no reserve because they don't know what they're spending a month. It's eye-opening once you get in. At one point, when we were doing research with the Family Child Care Network, we were interviewing providers, and one was like, all my receipts are in a Walmart bag, and I just handed over to my accountant. So she had no clue what she was spending on a consistent basis just for her center. So these are things that we heard over and over again from our providers. They are phenomenal teachers. They're phenomenal and are very passionate about the kids, but not so passionate about the business aspect. So there's a lot of training and a lot of education that needs to come in just on those basic pieces. Training is great, but also helping them hand in hand on what that budget is for and how to project and what that looks like, to help you see what you need to maybe look at some of the pricing that you charge. A lot of our providers think that whatever the state pays for child care assistance per day is what they have to charge. So then it comes down to where, the state will only pay $25. Now I know this is a little bit before, but just throwing a number out there, $25. So I have to charge $25 a day for services, and I can't go over that. So these are some things that we're working with providers on a consistent basis to let them know, hey, when you only charge what the state charges, then you are going to be losing money because that's not the full aspect of what you can charge. So really having those conversations. We have people that are like, I'm going to do nothing but infants and toddlers. Well, when you only do infants and toddlers for services, then you're not going to be able to make your business sustainable because you're not going to be able to have enough money to cover what it's going to actually cost your center with just infants and toddlers. You don't make any money in those areas. So just helping providers understand some of these specific key pieces that are really child care specific sometimes can be very difficult. Even on the tax piece, I've had providers come to me and say, I don't have a tax preparer in my area that understands family child care because it is very unique compared to other businesses. So then they end up losing thousands of dollars in taxes because their accountant didn't understand what they could and could not do. So those are all pieces that can be very detrimental, but are some of the issues that we have heard through all of the research being conducted and talking to just providers in general.
And Ms. Reddick mentioned that many family child care home providers don't know to set up a salary for themselves. They take whatever is left over after expenses and say that is what they've made. And that's why we see such a huge variability in per hour pay for family child care providers in the state. In Kentucky, it averages from about $5.25 an hour for family child care providers up to about $16 an hour. And the variation is definitely because the ladies, and I say ladies because we have no gentlemen in Kentucky doing this at this time, but the ladies are just taking the leftover instead of budgeting themselves a salary, and that's something we see nationwide. The other issue is that when they're looking at budgets, 50 to 80% of your expenses for a childcare program typically go to staff. And so when you're trying to make the rest of that stretch, one big issue is that it's so hard to break even that if a program has a one-time unexpected expense, like needing a new roof or having the HVAC system break, and now they have to take out a small business loan or pay a credit card bill, they don't have the extra funding to cover that extra expense, and it can easily collapse the business if they don't know how to manage that unexpected expense.
And I'll close out. I know there is help available in some communities for entrepreneurs coming online that communities have. I know there are state dollars to help with that also, and I think they can provide some of that basic business training also. As far as who you all are reaching throughout the state, what is the potential level of contact with what you're doing right now? Can you all expand more with this? Do you have the capacity to do so, or are you limited in your resources at this point?
A lot of the resources are up to the individual family child care network subcontractors, and they really are working hard right now. They're going to career fairs. They're partnering with the Workforce Commission in their area. Part of their contract is to recruit new family child care providers. So they really are going out into the field. And if you talk to, like I said, Child Care Council of Kentucky or EC Learn, you'll hear that they're trying to partner with their local workforce boards and really get out into the community to talk about what it would be like to become an entrepreneur and to lead this business yourself. But a lot of it has to do with the local motivation to take on that business ownership.
What about the private centers, nonprofits, that type of thing? Are many asking for those supports?
Those startups are different. They're categorized more by whether they're in a desert area or partnering with a business. And Jessica can tell you a lot more, but the desert area startups were much more appealing, even though businesses have asked a lot about starting up on-site childcare. I think maybe the initial startup grant that I, taking on as Sarah, that I initially thought with the ARP funds would be enough to make a matching grant really wasn't enough to get them inspired. And so the cabinets looked at ways to maybe help with that more.
Thank you. This has been really great. I so appreciate your time. Thank you to our friends in Texas, but also to our very own Miss Jessica Kane for talking about this. I think it's a great program to empower people. And I think a conversation I've had with several people is that we have got, we're always talking about getting more child care centers. And I think there are a lot of moms in Kentucky that stay home and raise their kids. And so I think empowering moms that have raised their kids to open up child care centers, whether it's home-based, whatever works for them. What a great avenue already. We just need to empower them with the resources that they need to be local entrepreneurs, that they can do it. I know it took someone, I started my own business in 2021, and it took someone asking me, well, why don't you actually do this? And I was like, oh, okay, someone believes in me. We don't always believe in ourselves as women. And so, what can we do to help partner with that? So I would really like to continue engaging with you on that conversation and see if we can have continued partnerships with like KCTCS or different programs to get certifications. And so I look forward to reaching out to you on that after this. But thank you very much, Dr. Vanover, too, for your input. And we're going to go ahead and move on to our next part of the agenda. We're actually going to switch it up just a little bit because I'm going to make sure that Ariel Ford and Gwen Lasser from North Carolina and Tennessee, respectively, are able to do their presentation. They're joining us today on Zoom. And so this section, for the Child Care Educator Shortage Solutions, the point is to explain the impact of various scholarship and other training initiatives on addressing the early child care educator shortage. We have invited several representatives, including Morehead State University, Henderson Community College, North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services, and the Tennessee Department of Human Services. As a reminder, I know that the first section went over quite a bit, but it was very good communication and engagement. And so we're going to try to keep this to 10 to 15 minutes each. So Ariel Ford, if you can go ahead and join us and start your presentation. Now, we got her presentation a little late, and so we weren't able to get it printed for your folders, but it is online on the committee website, and then it will be up on the screen as well. So Ariel, as soon as you get on here, if you don't care to introduce yourself, just so we have it for the record, and then go ahead and get started.
Yeah, hello. Can you hear me and see the
Yes.
screen? Wonderful. Okay. Hey, everybody. I am Ariel Ford. I'm the director for the Division of Child Development and Early Education for North Carolina. And I will take just 1 second and say I'm a native of Western North Carolina. And so I've had so much heart for you and yours in Kentucky with the floods. And so just for what that's worth from somebody who's in Southern Appalachia, I've really thought about y'all through that. I am also, yeah. And I want to start by sharing a quick story because I was a preschool teacher. I was a 2-year-old teacher for many years. And I was a recipient of the Child Care Wages program. And what it meant for me was that I was able to stay in the field and that I am where I am today. So when I was a teacher, my story about wages is that I went and I was getting an oil change for my car. And it was this little gas station down the road from the center that I worked at. And I had a friend take me back to go get it at the end of the day. And the man who was the mechanic said, honey, I wouldn't let my daughter drive around on tires like that because they were bald. And he said, I just don't feel good about you being on the road with these. And I almost fell into tears. And I just said, yes, sir, I understand, but I don't have another way to get to work. And I promise as soon as I get a little bit of money, I'll get tires. And he let me take my car. He did not hold my car hostage. But when I got my child care wages check, it was 2 or 3 weeks later, and I was able to buy new tires with that. And that's just, I wasn't buying lattes or, I just didn't have enough money to afford things like new tires. And so the wages salary supplement was the reason that I was able to stay in the field of teaching and that I was able to be a teacher to 2-year-olds for many years in my early career. So it's personally important to me. This program is personally important to me. And as I've stepped into this role as state administrator, I am able to see the statewide impact of the program. So I'm going to tell you just a couple stories and share some data with you. But at the department, at the Division of Child Development and Early Education, what we really want is what everybody wants, is that we want the children in our state to develop to their full potential, and we want them to have nurturing families, nurturing schools, and nurturing communities. And I know that's what you want too. And so we focus on children and families first. We know that they are the reason that we're here. And we know that they need our support to make their dreams come true for their families. And so we have a set of principles that guide us, and you all will see that. I'm not going to spend time on it since we don't have a ton of time together today. But what I want to say about the wage supplements and salary supplement programs that we have is that the early care and learning network that we have across our state, the compilation of programs, teachers, directors, family child care homes that you just heard about, support agencies, they all focus on that teacher because that teacher is a family's lifeline. It is how they experience early care and education is through that teacher, whether it's a family child care home or a teacher in a center. And so we really want to put our emphasis on making sure that our teachers are well supported. We know that it's an economic imperative that we have early education across our state so that we can continue to bring jobs into our state and that people have good paying jobs that they can go to, knowing that their children are safe and well supported in their education from an early age. And we know that our teachers want to stay in the profession. They might just not be able to afford to, just like me. They might need a little extra help to be able to stay in the profession. In our state, this is pre-pandemic. We're working on getting some updated data, but pre-pandemic, our early childhood educators were making $12 an hour, and half of them were not offered health insurance or other benefits through their employer. 1/3 of our workforce has been paid so little that they have been on public assistance sometime in the last 3 years. So that's a significant portion of our workforce that has relied on public assistance. We have the funding that you've been hearing about, the ARP funding, and we've been using that diligently to make sure that our providers are continue to be supported. But what I'm going to talk about now are things that have been in place for a long time. So first, I'm going to talk for just a second about the Child Care Wages program. And this is a quote from a director. who her teachers receive supplements through it. And she says, wages motivates my staff to keep going, to make my job more rewarding, making my job more rewarding as they meet their goals. It's helped add a monetary reward to keep the staff pushing for higher education and allows the staff to gain knowledge to apply to the center. It definitely helps with job retention as well. And I know that's true for myself also. In 2022, we have had 4,018 participants receive stipends. This is in North Carolina. This is done at the local level through our Smart Start agencies. So it's a local funding choice. And so 61 counties take advantage of it, 4,000 teachers, and the average supplement equals out to a little over $1.16 an hour raise, basically. That's significant. When you are making $8 an hour, getting $1 an hour raise, $8 to $9 an hour is life-changing. So we know that wages helps ease financial stress and helps people, our teachers, feel more satisfied with their jobs. And that is what we are here for. Several years back, what we were starting to realize is that there were teachers who loved being baby teachers. They wanted to hold babies. They wanted to teach babies about all of those wonderful developmental things that happen in that first year and those 1-year-old years and the 2-year-old years. But our infant and toddler teachers are actually paid less than our 3- and 4-year-old teachers. And this is the same across the country, probably in your state too. And so we came up with another salary supplement program specifically for our infant and toddler teachers. So it's for baby teachers, 1-year-old teachers, and 2-year-old teachers, so that they have something specially for them to focus on them. And so this is a quote from an awards participant. Infant Toddler Awards has given me reason to stay at my current program when their rates of pay was not meeting my needs. It's given me more financial security, decreased stress from financial strain, and helped me become a more present teacher for the children in the classroom. I think that's beautiful. So awards is similar to wages in that it is meant to increase education, support retention, and increase compensation, but for infant and toddler teachers specifically. When we talked about $12 an hour for all teachers, it's $12 an hour because preschool teachers, 3, 4, and 5-year-old teachers make $12.45 an hour, while our infant and toddler teachers make $11 or less an hour. So these supplements are a tiny bit higher, equaling out to $1.24 an hour raise. And we have awarded over about 1,337 this fiscal year alone. So both of these programs focus on making sure that our teachers have the knowledge, skills, and abilities through higher education that they need to be great teachers, that they are staying in classrooms to support our little ones and their families, and they are being compensated enough that they can stay in the classroom, stay in early education, and continue to help raise our state. So we are really proud of awards and wages. That's fine. But we're really proud of these two programs, and I'm just so grateful to have a chance to share with you all. It's important to me that we learn from each other and grow together. Our success helps all of us. So I encourage you to think about these programs. Like I said, I have personal experience with how it changed my life when I was a teacher. And thank you for giving me a few minutes of your time.
Thank you so much, Ariel. I want to go ahead and kick it over to Gwen with Tennessee to let her speak and do her presentation, and then we'll take quick questions from the committee on those two, and then we'll move forward to Stephanie Akers and Dr. Murray. Thank you for that great presentation, Ariel. Gwen, are you on?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes. If you'll introduce yourself for the record and then start your presentation, we'd greatly appreciate it.
Wonderful. Well, my name is Gwen Losser, and I am our Child Care Services Program Director with the Tennessee Department of Human Services. We are the lead agency for our CCDF administration. So I have prepared a brief overview. I thought it might be helpful to really talk about our state structure, kind of explain that, because I know that as we are all working together, our peer states, to support one another and finding solutions to all of these issues, that we're all structured a little differently, and it's kind of a good perspective to have. So again, we are the CCDF lead agency. I am a co-state administrator with our Assistant Commissioner, Jude White. Under us, we have our Child and Adult Care Licensing Program. And within that licensing program, we have our field operations staff, which monitor for compliance and evaluate quality. And then we have our pre-licensure unit, which is a fairly new unit we launched last year in August, that focuses on those brand new entities that are wanting to become licensed. And then we have our Child Care Certificate Program, which is our subsidy assistance program. We have our quality initiatives, which we network with our quality partners through contract, such as our Child Care Resource and Referral agencies, Tennessee State University, who offers our Tennessee Early Childhood Training Alliance, our TECTA program, which is our career lattice. Our Family Child Care Network. We also have contracts with Aim High Tennessee, which is infant toddler mental health, and various other supports to really provide those supports, resources, financial supports through our early childhood and education ecosystem. And then we too also administer our quality rating and improvement system. Supports for educator retention, we really began focusing about 4 years ago, this was pre-pandemic, on how we could elevate the industry. So we have been working on transforming the whole childcare industry within Tennessee. And a lot of that is really that emphasis on moving that old stigma from babysitters to professionals. And also our staff, that we move from enforcers to being a partner with that child care agency. Our report card process, we're moving more away from our old quality rating process to really focusing on quality improvement. Administrative tasks, from cumbersome to empowering, because we're putting in place a lot of new modernization systems that will automate processes so that we're streamlining all those old burdensome administrative tasks that providers used to have to do when doing business with us. And then really our capacity, it's moving from being a child care obstructor to finding ways to be a child care creator. And again, that payment assistance, we'll through all these modernization efforts, we'll be able to move from access to care becomes access to quality as we continue to bolster the quality level in agencies. So I wanted to point out a little bit about how we support providers through CCDF, and this is ongoing sustainability through CCDF. We do have our wages program, which I'll speak a little bit about how we're structured with that in a moment. We do provide free CPR and first aid certification and training to all child care educators and administrators. We have an enhancement and sustainability grants that providers can apply for at least one time a year. We have, of course, gone through several rate increases. We have professional development and tuition assistance that's available. Of course, our training technical assistance and targeted technical assistance through our quality partners. We too have launched the business academies, which we find is a critical piece to supporting a viable and sustainable childcare business. It is the same business academy that was launched that Texas spoke about through the Strengthening Business Practices. And we have a childcare workforce registry. We also have launched recently an infant toddler specialization program, and that's for infant toddler educators who may not be ready for college coursework, but we want to get them to that point where they can, really progress to the next level. And then we have, of course, our Family Child Care Network, and our reimbursements are based on enrollment and not attendance. Our wages program, we actually launched in 2019 statewide. Our one of our quality partners, Signal Centers, they had purchased the license for the wages program, and they were offering a pilot in Chattanooga. And we took that statewide in October of 2019. Of course, as you know, it wasn't long after that COVID hit. And so during that time period, we didn't have much of an uptake because there was so much emphasis and focus on other activities. But we have a structured supplement scale in alignment with our Career Lattice offered through our TECTA program. Educators apply directly to CCR&R for the wages program, and eligibility is based on established criteria. The supplement is issued directly to the eligible educators. It's issued to them in two parts. So in order to qualify, the educator must be working in a licensed childcare program, earn less than $20 per hour, have at least one of the educational levels that we have listed within our supplemental scale. Credits are from a regionally accredited school, have worked at least 6 months in the same childcare program with children ages birth to 5, at least 10 hours per week. This is part of that retention piece, because as long as they're participating and staying with the provider, they're eligible for the supplement. Which has really been a very critical piece. Our supplement scale is a 9-level scale tied to the education requirements. In last year, we did increase our award amounts by 50% and increase the wage per hour in order to qualify. So our level 1 starts at $600 a year. The minimum qualifications, as you can see, they have to have 6 credit hours in early childhood education or CDA, college coursework credit hours earned. It goes all the way up to the 9th level. It issues an annual award of $7,800. They have to have a bachelor's degree plus or including at least 30 credit hours in early childhood education, a master's degree plus or including 24 credit hours in early childhood education. And then since we launched the program in 2019, we have had total payments of $8,278,000. The average payment was $1,285 to the educator. The total number of payments that we've sent so far is 6,442. There have been 2,484 unduplicated recipients. The total unduplicated recipient has received 3,332. In this last year, we have seen a higher uptick in participation, and I think that's due to there's more focus on COVID recovery now. And so we have expended almost $5 million investments in this program, and just in September alone it was $433,000 with an average payment of $1,721. So that's basically my overview of what we're doing in Tennessee to help support teacher retention. So I'm happy to entertain any questions if you have them.
Do any members have questions for either Ariel, Ford, or Gwen? Senator Carroll? I'm timing you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And for both of you, with the wages program, have you all been able to track turnover within the teachers, and how has it affected that?
Ariel, you want to go first? Okay, I'll go first. So we have seen that those who are participating, it's less than 1.4% of turnover.
We've been doing it for a little bit longer than Gwen, so our numbers are a little bit higher, but and I don't have that right off the cuff, and I can email it to you, but there is a significant drop in teacher turnover when they are participating in childcare wages. And it's amazing what $3,000 or $4,000 a year can do to keep somebody in their employment.
And you said this is an ongoing effort. This is not tied to ARPA funding, and you all's legislatures supported this?
Go, Ariel.
Yeah.
We're structured just a little bit differently. So with us, we do it through contract. And so it was a decision that the department made to continue to support this effort through CCDF funding.
Okay, thank you.
And ours has blended funding. So we have the Smart Start Network, which is 75 local nonprofits who support early childhood education across their county or community. And so they are the funders of it with state dollars. And then the division puts in the funding for the administrative costs so that all of the dollars from the local level go straight to teachers, so that we cover that administrative cost with CCDF dollars. And then the local funds are state appropriated funds. They are not appropriated specifically for wages, but they are, the local communities allocate them to wages.
Thank you. And just for some context, I had someone just text me and say that the average childcare teacher turnover is around 40%. So just recognizing that Tennessee's is so low and your all's too in North Carolina is fascinating to see that. So your all's work on that's very important. So thank you. If there are no more questions from the committee, thank you all, Ariel and Gwen, for taking your time to spending some Zoom time in Kentucky. We appreciate you. And we're going to go ahead and bring Stephanie Akers and Dr. Bridget Murray up to the table. I'm going to ask both of them to come at the same time and present together. Oh, Stephanie's on Zoom. Just kidding. And I believe that Stephanie is going to go first with giving us a little background. So, Stephanie, make sure you introduce yourself for the record. And then Dr. Murray, when it is your opportunity to speak, please introduce yourself as well for the record.
Hello, I'm Stephanie Akers. I believe Bridget is actually starting our presentation with the background, and then I will go next.
Whatever works, ladies.
Okay, thank you.
And if you'll hit the mic or hit the button on the microphone. I apologize for getting that backwards.
Okay. All right. Good afternoon. Thank you for allowing me to speak to you today. And I will just go ahead and click onto the next screen. I am Dr. Bridget Murray, and I come to you out of a child care background, as some of the others have talked about. I had a child care program in Indiana for 25 years, so my college career is kind of that second career, and I am at Henderson Community College. I'm over that program. And my program actually started because of the scholarship fund. When they found out there was going to be a scholarship, they surveyed the providers in the area and saw there was a need. So it actually started in 2000, and it's been mine the whole time along. Just to let you know, IECE stands for the interdisciplinary, and that means that we are working with students to so they understand typically developing and children that have special needs. So that's a little bit unique. That was not something in my training in Indiana that I got. So I think that's definitely a benefit. All right, in your packet, I gave you a longer version of this Kids Now document. But this actually came from that original initiative, which happened in the late 1990s. And it, to me, was just absolutely amazing the way those dollars were spent and were allocated over, because it was the tobacco settlement dollars that was allocated to early childhood initiatives. That was very unique, and Kentucky was considered a leader in the field. So like when I went to a conference or something, I made sure I had Kentucky on my name tag rather than Indiana, where I lived, because I was very proud of what they were able to do. And people were asking a lot of questions because it was really amazing. So I just included that in your packet, because from what I was told, that legislation passed with no legislator voting against it. So that does not happen a lot of times. So I thought that was very interesting, and I always share that with my students. So the initial scholarship was in 2002, and it was for $1,500. So a scholar at that time could complete 8 classes on that amount of money. So if they went full-time, considering that being nine credit hours per term, they could finish their degree in about 3 years. So that was very, very reasonable. I did not cover books, and I don't believe we had any fees at that time. All right. There was another scholarship that was also available, which was a non-college scholarship. We also offered this at our college through our workforce. And it is for, you've heard the term mentioned today several times about the CDA. And that is a national credential which requires the student to have 120 hours of coursework and 480 hours work experience. So training agencies offer that training across the state, and at the time it was $420 for the training agency, which really in most cases does not cover the cost of doing that training. But one thing that's really good about the CDA is that it articulates in three, it was 3, now it's went to 2 college courses, and it meets half the requirements for that Kentucky director's credential, which feeds right into what you was talking about, that business training. So as things progressed, the program was very successful, and money was dispersed in the way that it would all come out in the fall. Then whatever was left was for the spring and then summer. But it wasn't too long till I was telling students, get that application in for spring because there may not be funding. And funding did run out. And it got to the point there was no funding for summer. So in order to stretch those dollars, they did have the scholars to start to complete the FAFSA, which is the financial aid form, and they grumbled. I don't want to have to fill out that form, but it was not long that they figured out that they could really benefit from it because it paid for their books and any fees, and in most cases, they even got a residual check. They got what was left from their financial aid. So it wasn't too long till the ones that were Pell eligible were not using the scholarship anymore because they was limited to 9 hours there, and because that's what was in the legislation for the scholarship. So that kind of an unintended effect, I think. So other things that happened was the scholarship just didn't increase. From 2002 to 2021, it was $300 increase. It went up to $1,800. That was it. So in the same realm, colleges were facing funding issues. They had moved to performance-based funding, so that we were being pushed for students to be full-time. And of course, college costs, as you know, have just gone up and up. So scholarship at the current rates will only cover 9 credit hours per year, 3 courses, compared to what in the beginning it covered 8 courses per year. And this is at the community college. Obviously, if you're talking $1,800 at the 4-year level, it probably covers 1 class. So this is a real person, Gina. She came through the CDA program, and she got her CDA. She wanted to do her associate degree, but she's married, 2 kids. One of her children has special needs. So on paper, it looked like she did not qualify for financial aid, but she did not have the money to spend to pay for college. So she was going to have to use the Kids Now scholarship. She'd completed her CDA. She wanted to do her director's credential. So this was her course degree plan that we came up with. And this is real. I pulled this out of her file to verify this, that it was going to take her 6 years. at only being able to do 3 classes per year. Her one goal of doing that director's credential, she accomplished within that first year, because the IEC 230 is business practices and the IECE 240 is administration. And today she is actually a director in a program and encouraging all of her staff to take advantage of the scholarship. So then another thing that came along in 2016, the tobacco settlement dollars were not allocated to the Kids Now initiative, which was understandable. The usage had gone down. So Division of Child Care wanted to have some way to continue that scholarship, and so they used a pot of money that they had from civil penalties. And civil penalties means that somebody messed up and had a violation of regulations. So that money was going into a fund. So they was using that to continue to fund the child care scholarship program. So a typical penalty might be $1,000, and that will cover 2 courses. So you can see that that really was a short-term goal there, is how that was going to work. All right, and in your packet, you also have this chart, so you don't have to squint to try to look at these. But this compares that original Kids Now scholarship to the one with the ARPA-funded scholarship that was definitely meeting most of the needs of the people in the field. And this also resulted in KIA, the regulations being changed to support that ARPA scholarship. So some of the things, obviously, it did expand a little bit as far as having directors or administrators eligible for the master's degree, which had not happened in the past. Extended to Head Start. Wasn't that limit that was so trying for students on the credit hours. The next one may look kind of interesting on paper, but you have to put this into context. At $6,305, that is the highest end. So that would be someone like in that master's level. The other thing that universities do is a lot of fees. So this actually included those fees in there, because those can add up to a good chunk of that. And they were covered, so that makes it good. In the old scholarship, no fees were covered at all. And then the employer continues to pay $50 towards the books, and they do get a stipend at the end of the, if they're successful in their courses. All right, so just a little snapshot of the students that enter my door to enroll. I have those traditional students that are entering from high school. Some of those have been in high school technical programs, child development programs. So some of them can actually have a CDA walking in if they're very motivated. They can earn that. And they also get the Commonwealth credential, which is half the CDA, 60 hours. They get a certificate of eligibility. They are highly sought after, the ones that come out of the programs in our area, because they've already done their orientation and they have all this experience. The early childhood public school program in our area is a very large center with over 400 3 to 5-year-olds in that program. And there are 14 classrooms in there, and they are more or less doing an internship. So they come out of there with great experience, and I love getting them because they do have that little bit of knowledge of what goes on and come in with their eyes kind of open anyway. All right, the next one's coming out of child care centers and homes. They are in the field, they've made that commitment, and they're wanting more education. Preschool assistants is really an area that I see are motivated. In that last scholarship with the ARPA funds, they were not eligible because it always only applied to child care programs, but they are the ones that I sometimes see, they're working under certified teachers, so they have good skills, and they want to be that certified teacher. Head Start staff is another one. In our areas, the Head Start staff are required to get their CDA, and their lead teachers all have bachelor's degrees. Those non-traditional students that we just you had mentioned earlier, and those are those moms that maybe have stayed at home with their children and now see that they feel like that they could have their own business or go to work in the field. So I had a conversation with a woman this week. She came in to enroll, and she has a son that has spina bifida. And she told me that she felt like her experiences could be shared with other students. And I said, absolutely. So we're all going to learn from her and her experiences whenever she does enroll. Then this next one is important because these are students that they went, they got a degree in something, and they hate it. And they figured out that they really, somewhere along the line, they really do enjoy working with students. So they're coming back in and doing the early childhood degree. So I know there's kind of been this rumble of the Work Ready Scholarship, and maybe that might be a way to sustain the early childhood scholarship. I just have a couple of cautions on that one that I would like should be considered, I think, and is that persons with a degree that already have a degree in the typical, and you have copies of the Work Ready, the qualifications for Work Ready currently, and then the one for KIA for the early childhood, the ARPA funds. So just you can look at those and see where they kind of line up. But persons with a degree are not eligible. It has to be someone without a degree. And the other thing is the need for a bachelor's degree, and the Work Ready Scholarship only goes to the associate degree. And we see a lot of need for that to go a little bit higher. So, all right. Thank you for your support of Kentucky's children. And I am happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Dr. Murray. I'm actually going to ask Ms. Akers to go ahead and present, and then we will let the committee ask questions all at once for the two of you all. And just a reminder, please introduce yourself for the record.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Stephanie Akers. I am the director of the Educational Unit for Child Care Services at Morehead State University. And can I share my screen over top of Bridget's? Or
okay, yeah, we'll get that taken care of.
Okay, I believe it's ready now. Looks like it's going to work. Does that look good on your end?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, wonderful. So thank you, committee, for inviting me to provide some really important information about the Kentucky Early Childhood Development Scholarship that Bridget gave us a wonderful overview. It's so important to Kentucky's early childhood educators, as well as Kentucky's families who have young children, because when we are able to support teachers, then we're able to support children and families. I work at Morehead State University. I've been there since 2006. So we are structured a little bit different than the community college system. So our educational unit for child care services, most of those students are pursuing, or all of those students are pursuing their CDA at a college level, which then most of those students transition into earning credit towards the Kentucky Director's Credential. And then I'm also faculty on the Early Childhood, Elementary, and Special Education Department. And those are those IECE students that Bridget described. So the interdisciplinary early childhood education degrees. We also have a child development degree at Morehead State University. I'm also a level 5 Kentucky credential trainer. My background is in social work for the cabinet. I was a preschool teacher. I've been a center director. I've been a developmental interventionist with First Steps, which is our early intervention for infants and toddlers with delays and disabilities in Kentucky. So like many of the other speakers, I have been in various roles in this profession for over 20 years. The way that Morehead is structured is a little bit different. Many of our ECDS recipients, the Early Childhood Development Scholarship recipients, come in to complete 2 courses and an independent study, and that meets the training requirements for that CDA credential, which is a national credential that is recognized across the United States in the profession of early education. Then I also have those scholarship recipients who go on to complete 2 more courses, and then they earn the Kentucky Director's Credential. We have a variety of students, just as Bridget shared. We have students that are coming right out of high school. We have this students, who, as a requirement, are already working 20 hours a week in an early care and education center. So most of our students are part-time. Many of them are, have families and are working. So that schedule works out well for them. Because of the $1,800 limit that has previously been in place before the ARPA funds, MSU has a limited supply of supplemental funds that are also, in question each year to offset the additional tuition costs that the scholarship did not cover for our students who are pursuing their CDA and director's credential. So that has been a very important support and has definitely given many of our students the opportunity to continue and also complete these credentials in a more timely manner. We also have bachelor's and master's degree programs at Morehead State in the early childhood profession. Our bachelor's of child development, many of those students are wanting to work in Head Start, or maybe they are looking to further their education as a speech therapist or some other kind of interventionist or professional working with young children, some kind of community-based services. They do not earn a teaching certification. The IECE Bachelor's of Education, those students complete a semester of student teaching, and then they take their praxis and end up teaching in Kentucky public preschool system. Of course, we also have the Master's of Education, IECE. Those students, what we call those as MAT students, most of them, if not all of them, teach in public preschool while they're completing their IECE courses. Many of them have a degree in, this is their second career, and it allows them to finish the degree components while they're actually getting hands-on experiences as a teacher in preschool. These students lost funding when the ARPA funding started, and that was also on Bridget's matrix and the comparison of the scholarships, because directors, administrators were then able to be funded for the master's degree, but not these types of students. So that's just a little bit about our program structure and how that works. This is a comparison of how many students are served in different settings across the state of Kentucky. So you can see that lots of the early childhood development scholarship recipients attend community college. Morehead State tends to be the biggest service provider of the four-year universities for the early childhood development students. And we know that when we serve our ECDS students, then we are in turn positively impacting the young children of Kentucky. When we can provide high quality educational experiences to infants, toddlers, and preschoolers, we know that has reaps benefits as they grow older and continue their educational career. I just wanted to also give an example that is goes in line with Bridget's example. If a student wanted to use the funds and attend Morehead State University. So this is Rob. He's been working at a 5-star rated early care and education center for 6 months. The 5-star rating is our Kentucky All-Star system, which is our quality assurance program for centers who receive CCAP funding. He's found a career that he enjoys and he wants to pursue his education. He also does not qualify for financial aid and does not have disposable income to pay tuition. He would like to use the Kids Now Scholarship to complete his CDA credential, his director's credential, and ultimately his bachelor's degree. In year one, to complete his CDA, he could take 2 courses, which would include the supplement, the Morehead State supplement, but then Rob would also have to cover $520 in any fees with funding at that $1,800 level. So if we think about that and we do the math, it could possibly take Rob 18 years to finish his bachelor's degree at a Kentucky university, and Morehead being one of the more affordable universities in the state. And one of the things that we've talked about is employee retention and helping early childhood teachers stay in the field. And I think this exemplifies how it is difficult for teachers who do have the passion and do have a natural ability and do really love spending time with young children to increase their education. Because we know that when teachers are more educated, more skilled, then we have better outcomes for young children. I did want to share just a couple testimonials. Jen Whitten is a current student at Morehead State University, and hopefully they printed her full testimonial and included that in your packet. But one of the things that I thought she explained so well is that how early childhood educators are really helping Kentucky's children with those foundations that are going to last a lifetime. Not only is it their cognitive skills, their letters, their numbers, but it's those important social skills. And one of the things she said is we as teachers are their first true window to the world that promotes acceptance of diversity and desire to think outside of the box, all while encouraging healthy relationships and self-regulation. She has attended undergraduate and graduate schools for other degrees, and now is pursuing her degree for teaching. And she just really, I think, captures what many students, when I could share, hundreds of success stories about how much the Early Childhood Development Scholarship supported her through her educational journey. This is a director that is a director of Baptist Health Child Development Center in Lexington, Kentucky. I think her perspective gives us a really good view of how we can help our child care crisis situation. We can help teachers stay in the field. We can help support their educational goals, which directly impacts the success of young children and really serves Kentucky's families in a positive way. And many of our students who come into early care and education might be a little bit unsure. They really might have not had successful educational history. They may be a little lacking some confidence in their educational goals. And what we strive to do at Morehead State is really support them overall and really, telling them yes, and how important the job is. We know that many young children spend more time with their early care and education teacher and that whoever else is in that building than they do with their families. If there's a family with two parents working or one parent, single parent, whatever the structure of the family is, many children in Kentucky spend a significant amount of their waking hours with their child care providers. So that gives us just more information about how important it is that these providers can obtain the education that they need and that they want. And as always, we always thank you for supporting Kentucky's children, families, and early care educators. And I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thank you. We've got about 10-ish minutes before the committee ends. Does any committee members have any questions?
Quickly.
All right, Senator Carroll. I would have never have guessed.
Sorry. I'm learning a lot. There's a lot that I thought I knew I don't know. With these programs, as part of the track for the degrees, as we just spoke about the business aspect of this, are there courses required in that area in each one of these programs?
Yes, sir.
No. They're options. They can do the director's credential. We have like 5 classes that are options, so they can. They're going to do those first 2 classes, the 101 and 102, which is half of that, which is the CDA credential. But then they are options. So not everyone wants to be a director, but they are there. And of course, those can be taken separately. They don't have to be part of a degree. They
So
can come in and just do that credential.
Make
and
sure I
the scholarship phase.
understand what you're talking with the associate's degree. There are no business-related classes that are required for that.
There are pieces of it that's covered, like in the CDA content. We have 10 hours of program management in there that's required for the CDA, and I think it's actually a little bit more than that. But it is a separate credential, separate path that they can take, and it's open to anybody to come in and do that, and the scholarship funds that.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
At Morehead State, we don't have specific courses for business for the CDA. For the director's credential, that there is a 3-hour course that they are required to take, and all of our IECE bachelor students and master's degree students are required to take, we call it preschool administration, at the various levels, whether it's credential level, bachelor's level, or master's degree level.
And I think it's very important that we focus on this, as my co-chair has stressed, that we need to look beyond pushing CDA and director's credentials and look towards developing owners and in all of our programs throughout the state. And I think she made an excellent point, and I've never really looked at it that way, but we need to carry it a step further in an effort to solve the supply problem that we have in the state. And I think that can be a key component if a lot of our community colleges and universities will expand what they offer to include that, to prepare these students so they can not only see working their way up as maybe being a director or in our case with the nonprofit and the vice president of an organization, or starting their own business. So I think there's a lot of value there, and I think that's another key component. So excellent information. Thank you all so much.
Any other members have questions? Thank you. I tease my co-chair. He always has a lot of questions, but that was the point of this committee, was to be able to have active engagement with people that come and present and people in the audience. And so I'm thankful for that. A lot of times we don't ask questions in Frankfort, and I think it's very important that we do. And so thank you, Senator Carroll, for that. The last meeting of the task force will be Monday, November 21st, 2022. We did move the meeting, so it didn't conflict with some ongoing child care conferences going on in the Commonwealth. We will be discussing and voting on task force findings and recommendations, so please join us later this month. We appreciate your participation and your presentation today. Meeting is do I need a motion? I need a motion to adjourn. Second. Okay, gone. We're done. Bye. Motion approved.